Hello, I'm Mike Thomas from the Sun City Woodworkers, and Sal has asked me to demonstrate our Powermatic hollow chisel mortise machine. Today we'll look at this machine and all the setups involved in setting this machine up to do multiple mortise for legs. We're going to pretend that we're making legs for a table. What a mortise is it makes either a single hole or a slot so that you can put a tenon in and glue it up, and this is a perfect joint for furniture. You can either make a blind mortise, which is what we're going to demonstrate today, or you can make a through mortise, which is what's used in arts and crafts furniture, which celebrates the mortise and tenon. Now the tenon was discussed in the table saw demonstration that Sal did, so we won't talk about that today. All right, so today we're making a blind mortise, and that's made from our chisel set. The chisels go from 1/4 of an inch up to an inch, and you always want to make the mortise first and then make the tenon to fit the mortise. And this you want a slight friction so that it bonds mechanically, but you also have room to put your glue. Now there are three things that are similar to this. The first is the biscuit, which puts a biscuit in here using a biscuit cutter. That's a very weak joint. The second is a Craig system, which puts screws in here, but it doesn't give you a lot of glue joints because they're just two pieces of wood butting up. This gives you a lot of surface area to apply glue, and it is a very strong joint, and therefore it's used in the furniture industry a lot. We've been told that this joint right here is stronger than this or this, and both of these areas will break before this does. All right, what we're going to do now is look at the mortise machine. The mortise machine has a lot of setups, and we're going to walk you through how to set up the mortise machine for making a table leg. I'll make one table leg here. I'll also show you how that you can make multiple table legs with the same setup. The chisels come in these tubes out of the tool room, and be very careful when you're handling these tubes. You always want to take the cap off and roll this out into your hand, and make sure that you're grabbing both the drill bit as well as the hollow chisel. The bit is comprised of two units. One is a drill bit, the other is a hollow chisel with a relief cut in it for the sawdust to evacuate. All right, when you handle this bit, always handle it with the shank down, with the hollow chisel pointing up. Be very careful of these points, they're very sharp. And you can hold it with the shank down, or you can hold it with your thumb, so that pressing against the drill bit so it doesn't come out. There are several adjustments on the machine, one of which is the handle, and the handle can be adjusted by pulling outward and moving it clockwise or counterclockwise and let it go in. And what this does is allow you to have a more comfortable pull on the chisel when you're drilling your mortise. Also be aware of this plastic on the wall that we've installed, because so that the handle hits the plastic and not the wall. The chisel is mounted in this collet. We have multiple collets for this machine for the various sizes of the drill bits and hollow chisels that we have with the machine. We also have a chuck adapter, which is right here, and that allows this chuck to be mounted up further in case a particular drill bit requires the chuck to be up or down, and down fits most of our chisels that we have in the tool room. If you need to take this chuck adapter out, use the wrench that's on the wall behind the machine, insert it into this nut right up here, and insert the key in the chuck to hold the chuck so it doesn't move, and then you can turn this and once you turn that, then the chuck will fall out. Once this adapter is removed, then you can remount the chuck on the tapered up there on the top, and then you can use the machine with the chisel that's required. All right, to mount the bit in the machine, we hold the drill bit with our thumb so that it won't fall out. We push the drill bit up through the collet into the chuck. And what we want to do, I'll move this up just a minute. What we want to do is hold this chisel down about the thickness of a dime. And doing that as well as tightening the bit. All right, I'll close the door. So our bit is tight. The hollow chisel won't fall out, but because we kept it down, we can now pull the bit up and pull the chisel up, and the drill bit is below the points of the hollow chisel. That's very important for cutting the wood prior to the chisel going into the wood. All right, now we need to set the chisel parallel to the fence, and we do that by bringing the chisel down and while wiggling the hollow chisel just a little bit, we then move the fence out until the back of the hollow chisel is parallel with the fence. Like that. All right, there are two ways to put the hollow chisel in the machine. One is with this slot that evacuates the chip to the right. The other is to the left. And the reason that you want to have it going one way or the other is to evacuate the chips into the hole that you just made with the chisel. Right now I've got it set up to start my mortise on the right hand side and go to the left. So as I'm making holes, the sawdust and wood bits will come out into that voided area. Now that I've got my chisel parallel to the back fence, I'll tighten it down. And then I can back the fence away, and we have the bit secured in the machine. The next thing that we want to do is set the depth, and I've marked on this right here, and this workpiece, the depth that I wanted to make. So I'll bring this down to the depth that I've marked, and I'll take my chisel down to that mark, and then over here on the back side of the machine, over on this side over here, is a depth gauge. Once that's down solid, we can tighten that down, and the head will now only go down to as far as the depth that we have marked. All right, I'll move the chisel and the bit back up. Again, we'll use it to rest against the plastic so that it doesn't hit the wall. And now we can start talking about mounting the leg, chair leg in this case, or table leg, into the machine. The first thing that we want to do is we always want to have the work right up even with this press, so that when the chisel goes down, it's in the middle of the press. When it tries to go back up, the press is holding the woodwork so that it doesn't come up when we pull it out, and we'll demonstrate that. So I want to mount my wood right there. I can then move this press in and tighten it up, and you want to be fairly firm on this so that when you do pull the chisel back up, the wood doesn't come up. All right, now we begin our adjustments so we can repeat these cuts on various table legs, on the multiple table legs that you have. The first is this stop, this comes around, and then you can put it up against this, and right here, tighten this down, and you can always then come in and put your second chair leg or table leg in, and you can always begin at the same place. Our forward to backward motion is covered with this handle. We can bring the bit down close to the piece of wood, and we can move the work back and forward until we are even forwards and backwards and with our mark. We also have a right to left, and we can move that over to where we want to start our mortise. We have 3 stops on the machine. One is the front to back, and that's located right here. So now that we have this set up, if we tighten this stop, then we won't have forward to backward motion. If we tighten these, bring this over against this, and the stop rest is right here, and tighten this down, that will prevent us from going any further that way. We then bring this over to where it's showing where our last chisel input is going to be, right there. And then we can take this stop and slide it over and tighten it down. So what we have now is forward to backward is fixed, side to side is protected with stops, and we can repeat this on all chair legs. If we do need to tilt the table, this machine does come with a tilting table from 0 to 35 degrees. We can do that by using the wrench that's mounted on the wall back here. Unloosen this nut and tilt the table however you want to tilt it. Most people use the straight without the angle cut, but it is available for you. All right, so we've got the stop here, we've got this stop, we've got these two, and we're ready to begin doing our mortise. We bring the handle up a little bit. I'm going from right to left, so I come over here to the right, and I turn the machine on, and I make my first cut. And then bring it up. Now I like to go more than a chisel to where I'm always going into a hole that has wood all the way around the chisel. If you try to go right like that, that will deflect the bit and it will get you a bad mortise. So I come on over to this and go down again for my next cut. Bring it up, go a little bit more, go down, and then I go all the way to the end. And now I can come back and clean up the wood that I left, that I skipped. So I'll get that one. I'll get that one. And that one. And then finally I like to come all the way over and just take a cut all the way across to make sure I went all the way down. Alright, then we can turn the machine off, put the handle all the way back up, and then release. And then this will then give us our mortise. Right, to duplicate that, we won't do it here, but I'll just show you that if we put our next chair leg in, if we bring it against the stop and tighten down, you will have the same mortise in this, on this piece of wood that you had in the first stock, because you have your stops and you have your front to back locked. Right? That's a demonstration of the mortise machine. If you've got any questions, you can see me or Sal or any of the Cluster 5 instructors, we all teach this machine. Thanks.